Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you the game changers in my business. This was actually a suggestion from one of my subscribers, and they asked what were some game changers, like gear I purchased, maybe experiences I had, softwares and mindsets, things like that, that I think are the biggest game changers in my own business now, reflecting back on the past 5 years. And I really love this question. I think it's a good one, so I'm going to answer it in today's video. Before we dive in, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button. I make videos just like this one every single week for photographers just like you. Okay, so starting off with experiences, I have 3 different experiences that I think really shaped who I am as a photographer now and took me the furthest of anything that I tried in my business early on. And the first is second shooting. I second shot for a couple of different wedding photographers pretty consistently, meaning I second shot, 10 or 15 weddings with that same photographer in my first year. So while I was booking my own weddings, I was also working for other photographers, and this was hugely valuable, not only to grow as a photographer, just get the camera in my hands, work in manual, that kind of thing, but really get to see how other photographers run a wedding day and get to see how the timeline works on a wedding day. So if you can get second shooting experience, I think that would be hugely valuable, especially if you're moving into the world of weddings. The second experience that really helped me out was shooting couples for free. I even shot individuals, families, friends, and engaged couples, and it just got me really comfortable with posing other people in front of the camera, and it got my feet wet into the industry a little bit before I had paying clients. So if you don't have any portfolio, you've never photographed a couple before, don't just jump in and start charging people. Do it for free so that you can gain the experience without the pressure of having that paying client and all those expectations. The third experience that really grew me was attending a business-focused workshop for photographers. So I attended a workshop called the Business Essentials, and doing this really early on in my career and starting to think about profit and my cost of doing business and sales and marketing and just the different side of photography early on, instead of being only thinking about my gear and my flash and my settings, really set me up for success when it came time to grow my business. Because at the end of the day, my goal as a photographer wasn't just to produce beautiful work, but to bring home a paycheck and support my life and my family's life with my photography. And so being in that mindset from the very beginning really helped me and took me really far. So I'm going to link some of my favorite resources below for you guys if you're interested in the business side of photography, or you'd like to just grow in general in business knowledge, marketing knowledge, branding knowledge, and that kind of thing. So be sure to check that out. So in terms of gear, I have 2 pieces of equipment that I think just made a really big impact in the final results of my images. Now, I personally wanted to shoot weddings, and I wanted to shoot a lot of portraiture and be able to photograph couples in low light and not have too much noise. So I was struggling for a long time to be able to accomplish what I was envisioning in my head until I bought a full frame camera body. So until I had a camera body that could handle a little bit of a higher ISO, I struggled to get that look. And then the second piece of equipment that really helped pair with the full frame camera body is the 85mm 1.4 lens. So for me personally in my own business, it was absolutely crucial that I have a full frame camera and an 85mm lens combined to really get that look that I was going for. And that kind of became my signature look, which really built my brand and my business and took it forward. Now, when it comes to editing, early on, I was really overwhelmed by Lightroom. I knew I needed to use Lightroom and not Photoshop because I'd be dealing with so many images, but I didn't know how to use Lightroom. And one class that really helped me organize the catalogs, understand presets, and just all the editing modules was a class by Jared Platt over on Creative Live. I'll link it down below, but I think it was like less than $100, and it is so in-depth and really breaks down every single area of Lightroom so that you can understand your import settings, your export settings, and how to achieve the edits that you're really looking for in your photography. So that leads me to softwares. I have 3 softwares that I want to mention for you guys today. The first is Photomechanic. Before I got Photomechanic, I was using Lightroom to actually cull through and pick the images that I wanted to edit. and it just took ages and ages and ages. And Lightroom's actually not meant for culling, and it just slows everything down if you have a huge amount of images in your catalog that you don't need to be there. So I use Photomechanic, and I have a video all about that, so I won't get into it, but you can check that out here, and I'll link it down below. The second software that I use is HoneyBook, and HoneyBook is how I manage all the nitty-gritty of like contracts, invoicing, getting paid, getting things signed, questionnaires. A lot of the back and forth with my clients is just a client management software, really. And I waited a little too long to get a client management software because I thought I needed to wait until I was really busy and really profitable. And while that kind of makes sense at first blush, it becomes really overwhelming to transfer everything over. So I had a really inefficient system of getting my contract signed and invoicing my clients and remembering when to invoice them after, you know, a certain amount of time had passed and they needed to make their next payment or whatever is in your client process. And so transferring over was kind of a pain. So I really encourage you, if you want to have a wedding photography business or photography business in general, get a client management software sooner than you think you need it, because it will actually allow you to be able to grow to the levels that you need to, because your business will be set up in a really healthy and sustainable way instead of having all these weird backwards ways of getting paid and getting contracts signed and sending invoices. And I mean, even sending a proposal, like if you're filling out all that information, customizing that, sending it to your client every single time. Like I know people that are wasting time on proposals when it should be like 3 clicks, and it can be really quick. Your time is really valuable. So get a client management software. The third software I want to mention is MileIQ. It is an app that I use on my phone that tracks all my mileage, and all I have to do is swipe left or right and tell it whether it was a business expense or business mileage or personal. And at the end of the year, it itemizes everything out, and it gives me a form that I can send with my taxes so that I can get the most amount of write-offs possible for my business. So once I discovered this app, I knew this is what I want. I pay for it every single year, and it just makes my life so much easier. I don't have to keep a log or keep receipts or any of that. Like, it's all digital, and I love that it, you know, preps all my tax forms at the end of the year. So it's really, really great. I have 3 books that completely changed the game for me, I guess mindset wise, but also just gave me a lot of incredible business knowledge when I was first starting my business. The first is The Pumpkin Plan. The second is the book Start. And the third, I have to look at my list, is Fine Art Weddings. I'm gonna link all of these below. I'm not gonna get into every single one of them, but these are the 3 books that when I really sat down and I really thought about it, I can attribute the most amount of business growth and change, and they just were the biggest game changers for me starting out in my photography business. The final thing that I want to share with you guys is a couple of mindset shifts, I guess you could say, that I had early on in my business. And those were looking at other photographers, looking at people that I admired and looked up to and wanted to be like, and realizing that they were just people. They put on their pants one leg at a time. They're human beings, and that they started at 0 as well. So when I first started out, I kind of, you know, had all these amazing people up on pedestals, and it was really hard for me to imagine that I could ever be there or ever book clients like they do or produce work like they do. But I really started shifting that mindset and asking, you know, why not me? Why couldn't I do this? Why can't I book that client? And why can't I make that money? Why can't I produce that work? And I think that mindset was really hugely crucial for my success in just saying, like, why not me? So that was really huge. I know that's like kind of, you know, woo-woo or like a little bit vague, but I think your mindset going into business and your belief in yourself is hugely impactful on how it's all gonna go down and whether or not you're gonna push through and have the grit to continue when you come up against resistance and struggles and problems, which you inevitably will. The last thing that I think had like a profound impact on my business was the compound effect. And the compound effect is simply that there's nothing that you can do once or twice or 3 times that's going to change everything for your business, but rather it's something that you do every single day for a long amount of time that suddenly adds up to something. So it starts to compound in effect. And all that blogging you're doing and networking and posing, going to workshops, reading books, listening to podcasts, all these things, you know, one of them or two of them may not feel impactful, but in the long run, they add up to huge results. And that's the compound effect. And that's something that took a little while to grow and have momentum in my business, but I just kept at it, and I knew that the compound effect would take effect and that I would see huge growth in my business and that it would take some time. So I remembered the compound effect when I was submitting my work to magazines and blogs, and I knew that it could take a really long time for that search engine optimization to truly take effect and for me to start seeing those results. So keep in mind the compound effect when you're growing your business, and don't be discouraged if you blog for a couple months and you don't see any results, because it can take more than you think to start seeing the results, but it truly will add up because of the compound effect. So I would love to hear from you. What were the biggest game changers in your business? Is it a piece of gear, an app, softwares, something completely different? Leave it in the comment section below. I'm super curious to hear what you think were the biggest game changers in your business, or that you think could be your biggest game changers as you're implementing right now. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you next week. Bye guys.